Idiocracy wasn't just ignored by its own studio, it was actively sabotaged. From a film that predicted Crocs would flop to a studio that refused to advertise it, from a rainiest summer that ruined drought scenes, to a character that didn't exist until late rewrites, Mike Judge's dystopian comedy has one of the most bizarre production stories in Hollywood history. Here are 20 unknown facts about Idiocracy. Fact 1. Here's one of the film's most prophetic accidents. The costume designer was working with a tiny budget and needed cheap, futuristic-looking footwear for the entire cast. She discovered a small startup company that wasn't widely known yet and showed Mike Judge these bizarre plastic shoes with holes in them. She thought they were perfect, horrible-looking, cheap, and absolutely ridiculous. She told Judge they could save a ton of money by putting everyone in these things. Judge had serious concerns. What if these shoes became popular by the time the movie came out? What if people were actually wearing them? The costume designer laughed at the idea. These were never going to become popular. Nobody would ever wear such hideous, impractical shoes. Those shoes were Crocs. When Idiocracy was released in 2006, Crocs were still relatively unknown, but by the time the film gained its cult following, Crocs had exploded into one of the most popular shoe brands in America. The very symbol of the idiotic future had become mainstream fashion. Judge's worst fear had come true. The dystopia was already here. It's become one of the film's most unintentionally accurate predictions about where American culture was heading. Fact 2. The most iconic character in Idiocracy wasn't in the original script at all. In early drafts from 2001, when the film was still titled 3001, there was no President Camacho whatsoever. Instead, the dystopian future was run by an annoying artificial intelligence operating system. Judge and Cohen showed this version to some actors to gauge reactions, and it fell completely flat. Nobody responded to it, so they went back and completely rewrote that element, creating President Dwayne Elizondo Mountain Dew Herbert Camacho, the flag-draped, machine-gun-wielding, former professional wrestler turned president. Terry Crews had to audition 5 separate times against major Hollywood names to land the role. He nailed every single audition. Eventually, Crews became so confident that he told the casting team if they found somebody better, they should just give it to that person. Judge later admitted that Crews was different from how he'd originally imagined the character, but when Crews came in and read for it, everything clicked perfectly. The chemistry was undeniable. Now it's impossible to imagine the film without Crews' larger-than-life performance. President Camacho saved Idiocracy from being a forgettable dystopian comedy. Fact 3. Here's a subtle detail most viewers completely miss on their first watch. None of the shirts or pants worn by the future characters have buttons or zippers anywhere on them. Every single piece of clothing in the year 2505 uses only elastic, Velcro, or simple pull-on designs. This wasn't a random costume choice, it was completely intentional. The costume designers wanted to illustrate that humanity had devolved to the point where people could no longer operate something as simple as a button or zipper. Think about how profound that concept is. The future society Judge imagined has completely forgotten such basic mechanical skills that all their clothing had to be redesigned to accommodate their incompetence. It's a perfect example of the film's incredible attention to detail in world building. The costume department made absolutely sure that every single extra and actor wore buttonless, zipperless clothing throughout the entire production. It's one of those background details that reinforces the dystopia without ever calling attention to itself. Most people never consciously notice it, but it subconsciously reinforces the message that this future has lost even the most fundamental human capabilities. Fact 4. Mike Judge had been jotting down ideas about evolution and societal decline since 1995, but the concept that became Idiocracy crystallized in one specific moment in 2001. Judge was at Disneyland with his daughters, waiting in line at the Alice in Wonderland ride. Behind him, a woman with a stroller and 2 small children got into a confrontation with another woman who was also with 2 small kids. They started screaming profanities at each other right there in line. The language was absolutely vile, cursing, threatening to kick each other's asses, all while their children watched. Judge stood there thinking about the massive contrast between Walt Disney's optimistic 1950s vision of the future and this scene playing out in his theme park 50 years later. That moment became the seed for an entire dystopian future. Judge immediately called Eaton Cohen to start working on the screenplay. Cohen later described the collaboration as being like film school, except Mike Judge was teaching the class. That Disneyland fight became the foundation for one of the most prescient satirical comedies ever made. If you want more videos like this, subscribe, like, and comment what movie you want us to cover next.
Come
Fact
over
5.
here and take a look at this. Come on, hustle over here.
Mike Judge later said he felt the entire film was cursed because everything that could possibly go wrong did go wrong. The biggest natural disaster? The script specifically called for the future to be experiencing a severe drought with dead brown grass everywhere. Filming took place in Austin, Texas during the summer of 2004, which turned out to be the rainiest summer on record for that area. Judge couldn't believe the timing. Here they were trying to film a drought, and it wouldn't stop raining. The production crew had to repeatedly poison perfectly healthy green grass to make it look dead and brown for the dystopian scenes. Not only did this feel environmentally terrible and morally wrong, it cost precious time and money the production absolutely couldn't afford. Judge reflected that the curse of the movie seemed to spread out into the world after production. Between the constant rain, the severe budget cuts, the disastrous test screenings, and Fox's active sabotage of the release, Idiocracy's production was plagued with problems from start to finish. Some films are just cursed, and Idiocracy might be the best example. Fact 6. The character of Upgrade, Rita's pimp, who spells his name with 2 Ds for a double dose of pimping, is played by rapper Scarface from the legendary hip-hop group Ghetto Boys. This was Mike Judge's second collaboration with the Ghetto Boys. Judge's previous film, Office Space, prominently featured the Ghetto Boys song Still, in the iconic printer smashing scene that became a cultural phenomenon. Bringing Scarface into Idiocracy was Judge's way of continuing that connection and bringing authenticity to the character. The character's unusual name spelling and the explanation for it is a direct reference to the documentary American Pimp. In that documentary, a real-life pimp named Rosebud offers that exact same explanation for spelling his name with 2 Ds. Judge confirmed this reference on the DVD commentary. Scarface appears in both the opening of the film and returns in the post-credits scene. In that scene, his hibernation chamber opens 500 years in the future, and he emerges, still impeccably dressed and determined to track down Rita and collect his money. It's a perfect bookend joke. Even after half a millennium and complete societal collapse, Upgrade is still coming for what he's owed. Fact 7. While many corporations surprisingly allowed their brands to be used and openly satirized in Idiocracy, 2 major companies absolutely refused: Walmart and Carlton Cigarettes. The original script actually featured Walmart instead of Costco for the massive warehouse store scenes, but Walmart declined permission for their logo to be mocked in any way. Similarly, Carlton Cigarettes wouldn't allow their brand to appear, so the filmmakers had to create entirely fake cigarette brands instead. However, most other companies surprisingly agreed to participate. Graphic designer Ellen Lample worked with production designer Darren Guilford to create hundreds of future logos for brands like Carl's Jr., Starbucks, FedEx, and dozens of others. Lample described her design approach as a visual fusion of NASCAR aesthetics, candy packaging, Mexican hand-painted signs, and Japanese pop culture. The filmmakers also created fictional brands including Brondo, originally named Rancho in early drafts, and Nastia. The ultimate irony is that by allowing their brands to be used, these companies inadvertently became part of one of cinema's sharpest corporate satires. Terry Crews later revealed they regretted it when advertisers complained to Fox about their negative portrayal. Fact 8. In 2016, during the presidential election, Terry Crews, Mike Judge, and Ethan Cohen wanted to create a series of comedy ads featuring President Camacho. The original plan was to make them purely satirical, but let audiences interpret them however they wanted. However, when word leaked that they were planning anti-Trump ads, everything fell apart almost immediately. Judge explained that it was announced prematurely as anti-Trump content, and he would have strongly preferred to just make them and then let people decide for themselves what they meant. Crews had simply wanted to make some funny Camacho ads, and Judge and Cohen had written several that they thought were genuinely hilarious, but the project completely fell apart once it became politicized. Judge wanted to release them quietly and let them organically go viral, rather than having people announce upfront that they were making anti-Trump political ads. Making satirical content like that works much better if you don't loudly declare your intentions beforehand. More importantly, Fox, which owned all the rights to Idiocracy, actively blocked them. Judge confirmed there was a definite roadblock from Fox's side. The ads were shelved and never happened, despite Crews having successfully reprised Camacho for Funny or Die sketches back in 2012. Fact 9. Most people have absolutely no idea that Idiocracy has a post-credits scene. After all the credits completely finish rolling, a third hibernation chamber is shown slowly opening up. Out steps Upgrade, Rita's pimp from 500 years ago, still impeccably and snappily dressed. He's clearly determined to track down Rita and collect the money she owes him. It's an absolutely perfect comedic bookend to the entire film. Even after the complete apocalypse, even after 500 years of total societal collapse, even after everything that's happened throughout the movie, Upgrade is still relentlessly coming for what he's owed. The scene uses the track House of Representin' as his personal theme music, which is the exact same music used for President Camacho's dramatic entrance earlier in the film. The underlying joke is brilliant. Upgrade is equally unstoppable in his single-minded pursuit as Camacho is in his bombastic presidential speeches. It's a darkly hilarious final punchline. In a future where humanity has completely devolved and lost everything, the only thing that survives absolutely unchanged is a pimp's unwavering determination to collect his money. Since Idiocracy had such a severely limited theatrical release, most people discovered it on DVD at home. Fact 10. This isn't speculation. 20th Century Fox actively sabotaged their own movie. Idiocracy was released in only 130 theaters on September 1, 2006, with absolutely no presence in major markets like New York or San Francisco. The studio created 0 movie trailers, 0 advertisements, and released only 2 promotional stills to the public. They sent out no press kits, refused to screen the film for critics, and stars Luke Wilson and Maya Rudolph did no promotional press whatsoever. According to Dax Shepard, theaters that did show it listed the film as untitled Mike Judge comedy on Moviefone and Fandango. People who actually wanted to see the movie couldn't even find it. The film had sat on the shelf for an entire year before this pathetic non-release. Terry Crews later revealed that corporate advertisers were furious about how they were portrayed, including a scene where Starbucks provides sexual services, and complained to Fox executives. Fox was contractually obligated to give the film a theatrical release, so they technically fulfilled that requirement while doing everything possible to ensure nobody saw it. The result? A catastrophic $444,093 domestic gross from a $2.4 million budget. But Fox's sabotage backfired spectacularly when the film earned over $9 million on DVD rentals. Fact 11. Idiocracy's predictions kept coming true with frightening accuracy, from Crocs becoming wildly popular to reality TV completely taking over to aggressive anti-intellectualism dominating politics. Mike Judge was asked constantly about his seemingly prophetic abilities. His response became famous and widely quoted. Judge told Time magazine that he's no prophet at all, and that he was actually off by 490 years in his predictions. He said this in 2016, just months before that year's presidential election. The joke is both hilarious and deeply disturbing. Judge had set the film 500 years in the future, but it was already visibly happening in 2016, just 10 years after the film's release. Co-writer Etan Cohen went even further with his assessment, stating that he never expected Idiocracy to become an actual documentary. The film's prescience has only grown more uncomfortable and undeniable with each passing year. What seemed like absurd exaggeration in 2006, a professional wrestler, president, corporations controlling absolutely everything, people unable to think critically, mindless entertainment completely replacing education, feels less like creative satire and more like straightforward journalism every single year. Judge explicitly stated he didn't want Idiocracy to get popular by the world getting stupider faster, but here we are. Fact 12. Idiocracy had a production budget of only $2.4 to $4 million, extraordinarily low for a science fiction film set 500 years in the future with extensive visual effects needs. According to cinematographer Timothy Searstedt, they were about $10 million short of what they actually needed to make the film properly. The visual effects company Fox hired was completely incompetent. The guy they sent down to Texas clearly had no idea what he was doing. Whenever the crew asked what he needed from them or what was going to be added in post-production, he'd get flustered and nervous. Fox had found a company willing to do the work for the limited budget, but you get what you pay for. Judge described the production schedule as impossible. Every single day seemed to be at least 16 hours of grueling work. It was rough on everyone involved. The tiny budget forced creative compromises everywhere, from buying Crocs as futuristic footwear to shooting everything in Austin, Texas, instead of building elaborate sets. Despite these severe limitations, the production design team somehow created a memorable dystopian world that's only become more disturbingly plausible with time. Fact 13. In Idiocracy's dystopian future, nearly all present-day business logos are altered, exaggerated, or evolved in absurd ways. Costco becomes an enormous warehouse store where people live and shop. Starbucks has a drastically different and inappropriate business model. FedEx becomes FedEx with extra X's for no apparent reason. Fuddruckers gradually devolves through various spellings until it becomes buttfuckers, as society loses basic literacy skills. But there's one major exception that stands out. The Fox News logo appears exactly as it existed in 2006. 2006, completely unaltered in any way. This wasn't an accident or oversight, it was Mike Judge and his team making an incredibly pointed statement about Fox News already being perfectly suited for the idiotic future. While every other corporation in the film needed to be exaggerated, dumbed down, or satirized to fit the dystopia, Fox News' actual 2006 logo was apparently already dystopian enough on its own. This subtle jab at Fox News by a film distributed by 20th Century Fox, the parent company, adds another fascinating layer to the studio's decision to actively bury the film. It's one of the sharpest satirical choices in the entire movie. Fact 14. According to cinematographer Timothy Searstedt, 20th Century Fox knew from the very beginning they were severely underfunding the movie. They were aware the production was $10 million short of what was actually needed, but the studio had a specific strategy they were executing. Searstedt had seen studios do this before, but never to this degree. Fox didn't want to make Idiocracy, but even more importantly, they didn't want Mike Judge taking the project to another studio that might actually succeed with it, so they gave Judge just enough budget to technically fulfill their contractual obligations while simultaneously ensuring the film couldn't be made properly. The relationship between Judge and Fox had deteriorated significantly by this point. It was pretty clear that Judge didn't want to work with Fox anymore, and Fox didn't particularly want to work with him either. They were stuck together by contracts and obligations. Despite this toxic relationship, Judge maintains diplomatic public statements about it, always adding that Fox did pay for the movie, so they weren't completely the bad guys. But the evidence suggests otherwise. Fact 15. According to various sources close to the production, Idiocracy's test screenings in March 2005 produced unofficial reports of extremely poor audience reactions. The screenings apparently went so badly that Fox immediately ordered expensive reshoots during summer 2005 to try fixing the problems. Mike Judge tends to be diplomatic about this topic, often attributing Fox's complete lack of promotion directly to these terrible test results. Time magazine reported that the film's ads and trailers tested absolutely atrociously with focus groups. Judge has publicly stated that Fox essentially decided after seeing the test screening results that the film would eventually find its cult audience through DVD sales, just like Office Space had done years earlier. So Fox executives reasoned, why waste money marketing it theatrically? However, a UK test screening in August 2005 reportedly produced much more positive reactions, which suggests the problem might have been more complex than simple quality issues. Multiple theories emerged about the real reason Fox actively buried the film: corporate advertisers complaining about their portrayal, the satire being too uncomfortably on the nose, or the Fox News criticism hitting too close to home. Whether the test screenings were genuinely disastrous, or Fox simply used them as a convenient excuse, remains heavily debated. From Fox deliberately sabotaging their own movie, to Crocs becoming exactly what the filmmakers mocked, Idiocracy's real story is almost as absurd as the film itself. A cursed production, a buried release, and an impossible budget somehow created one of the most prophetic films ever made. Sometimes, the best satire just shows where we're already heading. If you want more videos like this, please subscribe to our channel and comment down below what movie you want to see next.